then we are playing, we are playing also. Don't forget that we're playing. But like life is like that. We will die, but still we play, knowing that yes, in the end of this I'll die because I will. Sorry. Okay.
I had a question or two about sort of more like the business side for me and Ali, like how, at least from your perspective and your experience, like what is like a studio to look for? Do you prefer working on your own, like self advertising? Like how did you do it?
Oh yeah, how I do it, right? Well, how I used to do it was that I just taught in many yoga studios. Yeah, so I would when I started teaching, it wasn't that there weren't so many yoga teachers. So people would step up and go like, "Oh, you want to teach here? You want to teach there?" Because they started to spread. And then you just manage your time. And then there's actually a rule. And when I was younger, I decided to be a full-time yoga teacher, and you're not supposed to teach more than 15 yoga classes a week. And I actually pushed it. I was like pushing it. So that's actually really, really hard to do. You need you need a lot of energy, and then I started to be more okay. I do more workshops and still teach, but not as much. And then I started to get like sharp nerds. I had an employment where I do more educational, but still teach all the time, but get like start to have better income. And that's because I had like a lot of teaching already under my belt. And then after liking all that workshop style, I started to help with teacher trainings, and so it goes. So my other gig is private clients, and they need a very specific care because most people have something going on, and I help with like chronic pain and chronic issues. So and I know that one is also they just really love me to come to the house, and they love my energy also. That's part of it. Sometimes we just breathe, we don't do much. He's an older guy and he's gay, so it's not like that. It's beautiful actually. It's and we always come from mundane talk, and then actually always come back to yoga. And he really needs to hear like I'm not your body, because he's aging and that's hurting him. And then he feels so much better because he's like, oh yeah, that's not really me. And then we forget and we're like, oh, that's me. So, and that covers a lot. So, and if you have that playfulness, but also the severe impact and the happiness about you are actually not your body, all what you've been asking, trans, any kind of dysmorphia, like I'm too fat, I'm too thin, I'm too whatever, I'm too short, I'm too brown, I'm too curly, we are all too something. But I need healing. We all need healing. We need collective healing. And we address it with I am actually non-identified with this body, but we use it as a tool. So I love that. Okay, we have more questions. When we need to move, we can start with a round robin, and we can stop for questions. Or do you have another question?
I guess similar to gender would be sexuality.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, from soul to soul, because you fall in love with soul, and then they happen to be in the same sex body than you, but you go for it anyway. So it's a relief in a way. Yeah, for if you think about it, for pretty much everything, it's a relief rather than a burden, because the burden is having a body. It's we think like I'm so like I do yoga and like it seems that I'm so in love with being in the body, but yoga is designed to understand, to not identify with the body. Because when I was a baby, I wasn't thinking, oh, I'm a baby. I was just like, food, milk.
I feel like it's designed
and then I crawled, we just go with what's next,
I feel like it's designed to make you appreciate what your body can do, not how it looks or like how it feels internally, not.
Yeah, so you need it's like it's implying a little healthy detachment. I mean, like I remember my son, he was like 4 and he had a nap, kids and with little kids, and he slept on a blanket. He woke up and he had it was summer, he had no shirt on, and he came to sit on my lap. He just slept. He's still like soft and like so cute, and then he's like super relaxed, and he's looking at his belly. He's like, ah! He started screaming and crying because he had a huge print all over his torso from the blanket, like a crinkled up blanket print. So he fell into that identifying with the body, and there's something wrong with it, and it affected his emotion, his mind so tremendously, only to learn that it will clear by itself without him thinking or doing anything. It will just go away. It's actually not a big deal. And then this whole relief about it, and it's like that a little bit in the yoga class. It's like, oh my God, and then like, and we're realizing, oh, that was just a crinkled blanket in my mind, and I could let that go. Ah, and that's why this, I believe so with all my heart, what an amazing service this is for humankind. It's not like, oh yeah, you be a yoga teacher and, and make a lot of money. Sorry, you asked me about the business side of it. I think it's fucking hard to be a full-time yoga teacher. I think it's very hard. It's a tough thing. But you could, I also taught in schools after curriculum, for example. So you have to go through the insurance and through like fingerprinting through the school, the districts. They ask you to do all that kind of stuff. So if you can afford it, which I did, I went, and then after school programs, they paid a lot of money, for maybe a 6 weeks yoga course for fifth graders, or so there's a lot of looking outside of yoga studios, because yoga studios, I don't think they ever paid well. They never did.
I don't know what the day looks like right now.
I don't know either, but it used to always be just not
Do you
enough.
ever teach at universities?
I taught at universities, and you can create courses for that. Yes. And I think because you have a little more of the healing stuff, and you have also Ayurveda, actually it notched you up already a little bit. You already know more than the Vinyasa script, because that's very, there's a lot to it. Yeah, I'm not a really good person I'm not very business oriented. So I failed. I tried in the pandemic to do like social media and get people to do online yoga with me, and that failed completely. I tried, but it just didn't. I don't know how. I even did a course, and I still don't know how that works. I try and try. So it's not so easy, but I think there is a lot of special needs also, autism, trans, prenatal, postnatal, trans, like body dysmorphia. I think it's like where you feel like a natural curiosity is where you should go. Some people want to be with kids. Some people want to be with old people. Like old people is another. It's a very thankful gig, because they're like, I can't anything, and then and afterwards they're like, oh, I could do all this. They feel very happy, and you feel fulfilled.
Even just doing the Thai massage, which is the lazy man's yoga, with my mom, she's like, oh my gosh, my hips, and this feels so much better. And I was just like thinking yoga would be so good for her. She has her breast cancer and a lot of fear.
It's right there. Like, so for example, just look at where is it helping me? So my advice is where is my like insecurity, fears? And then you could create a course, a yoga for fear.
Mm-hmm.
And then people are like, I have fears. There's yoga for it. I didn't know that. Yoga for, like help, like go through transition, for example.
For survivors.
Or for survivors, and yoga for cancer survivors, and that's why it's like you got a little bit, the pre and postnatal yoga gave you a lot of hints about just be more aware of what's going on with that person. Because usually if we're just a yoga teacher, we have anybody, we don't really know. We don't know if they're pregnant, if they've survived cancer. We don't know if they're really hurting in their shoulder. And so if you are actually feeling like, oh, I overcame like chronic lower back pain, of course, I rock at healing people with chronic lower back pain because I healed myself. So look at where you at, and that's going to be where you're going to be having a stronger voice, because you know what you're talking about. So I think that counts for business as well, because you're more convinced. Because I used to come from this whole, like, that wasn't good for business. I was like, I could teach anybody. I'd be like, yeah, no, I could do that. Oh, I could do that. I could do that. But then when I said, like, okay, but I can really do that, that's when I'm also a little bit more wanted. It's like, and then you may fail, right? We talked about failing. And then you're like, okay, so so my fear of my insecurities or something. It's you could even design a class for fear and insecurity. What dosha is that? What provokes fear and insecurity? That's Ayurvedic.
I feel like that would be Vata.
Yes.
Because they don't
Absolutely.
have, they're all over the place.
Yes.
There's no stability, and it's like fragile, more thin,
Get scared.
fragile,
Yes.
more thin, jumpy,
Yes.
and not relaxed. Like the kapha is like, oh, I'm chill, I'm relaxed, like more peaceful and serenity. And so I feel like that is part of my problem because it's my dosha. So
Beautiful. But see how you are a poster child of that.
yeah,
And you're able to help me transcend it and see like, oh, that's my nature. So I'm not gonna sit in my shame and hide that I'm actually afraid or say something.
yeah. And
But
it's
you're
funny
like
because
the
my
constant
I
overcoming
thought I
of
was
it.
a lot. I am a lot of like pitta too, but that's only when I'm like. It's just so funny because it's like both of them. But I was really thinking because you said very rare to have a balance of all three, and I was thinking I don't even know how that could make sense. Like I have to try since I am a Vata, I have to try really hard to do the kapha things like that. It takes a lot of like, okay, like I'm just gonna chill, and be easygoing, and eat a huge thing of carbs.
So if you also think of like how do you want to promote it and something, I think that's what helps. Like I know that you study psychology, so you look at the psychology of it. So if you want to do a course on yoga for fear, it sounds like I'm not going to go because I don't want to be surrounded with these kind of people. They're like that sounds actually terrible. But if you turn it around, you go like yoga for confidence, yoga for emotional strength.
I love that.
I want to go,
Yeah.
and you have that, you have that already, because I'm kind of like, I'm like waking you up to that you are finding that inside you already. Yay!
That's why I said just even knowing to open with the 3-part breath, I was like, I have, because I just feel
Okay.
like there's so much knowledge, and then I'm older too, so I'm like, I'm too old, 37.
So let's take that to jump into the next thing. So we just designed something, and I want you to take a moment to think of our round robin is not going to be random. It's going to be what we just touched on. We said yoga for emotional confidence, because we talked about trans and cancer surviving, being mothers, being in a bad mood, driving